With the Goodwood Festival of Speed coming up, we're going to be driving up the Hillclimb. Only our list of cars will be ones that I am more familiar with in the real world. So again, it gets into that. How close is the sim to the real life? So we're going to judge that here at the Hillclimb. So obviously this truck I have a fair amount of experience driving. The one in the sim is a little bit newer than the one in my driveway. But it's relatively close given given what's available in the sim, you know. There are some pretty big differences between the two. This one's a little bit newer, and I refuse to turn it on to automatic mode. My truck is an actual automatic, so 110.641. So we're going to go through a couple of cars that I've got personal, driven in real life to see how close the sim is to there. This one it's a little bit quicker than it is in real life. And the steering's actually a little bit heavier. So, not bad though. The body roll is not enough body roll for what it is in real life. It is pretty top heavy. Alright, so next we're looking at a Fiat 500. This is a car that came with a Assetto Corsa. I think this one, I don't know a lot about this Albarth, version of it, but this is very similar to one I drove. Not here. The one I actually drove more than one of these. And they were right-hand drive because I was driving them in England and in Ireland. I drove a couple of different ones. One was a hybrid. So we'll see how the sim compares. The dash looks very correct. The one I drove, the two different ones that I drove did not have a turbo, so and it was right-hand drive. It was a manual though, so Which you'd think that going from a mostly automatics and right-hand drive to, or from left-hand drive to right-hand drive with a manual would be a bit of a transition, but it actually wasn't that bad. I was shifting with my left hand. I mean, it was a little sketchy at first, but you know, overall this car is actually pretty good. It's definitely quicker than, so 107, 823, definitely quicker than the ones that I drove, because they were non-turbo versions. And the one with a hybrid, it got really great gas mileage though. We drove all over Ireland, and I had to put almost no petrol in it. Overall, it's yeah, pretty good sim. Yeah. It's probably way closer to the, you know, if I actually drove one with the turbo, probably be a lot closer, but overall pretty good. Alright, so a Subaru Legacy GT. So the version I was involved with was not a right-hand drive, it was a left-hand drive. This is a car owned by my son. It was at its end of its life when he owned it. Went to the junkyard after he owned it. Some thoughts. It is the version he had was an automatic. I don't think it was this quick. It's hard to say. The steering wasn't nearly that smooth. I know that because I replaced a bunch of the steering components in this car. So, because when we bought it had a bad rack and pinion in it. So, which I replaced, and he drove it for a while. This one seemed a little planted too, although it was all-wheel drive. Although it wasn't all the time all-wheel drive, so overall not bad, but yeah. One of the more oddball ones in this little playthrough. It's a Ford F-350. The one I drove was not really an F-350. It was a grain truck, so this is about as close as I could get to what it was. I think the one I drove was a 1.5 ton, but this is way faster than that grain truck. Oops, grain truck. It does feel very big, though. When I drove it, it was not empty either, so it was. Oh, come on, turn. The steering ratio was way too quick here. It was kind of like driving the old American school bus here, spinning the old pie plate. 113,729. Yeah. The one I drove was it's effectively a dump truck, so this is as close as I could find in the sim, so. Is it close to what I drove? Not really, but. And I think this one's a little bit quick for what these would actually drive like, so. Overall, I mean, kind of a funny one, but yeah. C'est la vie. Alright, so a Ford LTD. Yeah, she's something, alright. Anybody of my age probably drove something very similar to this, and locations. It is too quick, I think. These were kind of ubiquitous. When I was in high school, there was a lot of people that drove these kind of cars. That's where I drove one of these. Absolute, just, of course, it was in pretty rough shape when I drove it. There were a lot of 1980s sedans, you know, in the high school parking lot when I was in high school. And there were a couple of these. I don't know how LTD stood for limited. I don't know how limited they were, given how they were everywhere. Just Econoline boxes, 110,478. They were of the variety when emissions they still kept putting V8s and everything. So these had like what did they have, 302s in them or 351s, and they just starved them of fuel to get the fuel economy down. So this one drove much smoother than the ones that I've driven, but the ones that I've driven were pretty clapped out. So overall, not a bad sim version of it. The interior is a little sparse. They're always covered in crap, and the dash was always cracked. But all right, so we got a Chevy C10. The dash is wrong, I can tell you that already. This is a dash more for a silver, or a 1980s, not a 1970s Chevy pickup. So the one that I drove had pretty substantial motor in it. Here we go. The one I drove had a big block Chevy motor in it. It had a lot of torque. Okay. It had a Chevy 454, which is like a 7-liter. It was not quick, but it had a lot of torque. Like, you could pull yourself out of the corner pretty quick. I didn't drive it like in anger like this, but it's just on the street. One thing I can tell you straight up is the steering is way too precise for a Chevy pickup. and across the line at 109.77. Yeah, this one I don't think falls in under the. Even the modified version that I drove was not even remotely close to this. Alright, so this is not our first take on the Miata here. It's ironic given what I said in the actual run. So, it's a little 1990s Mazda Miata. This is included in the Assetto Corsa base game, so see how close they do. It does have one of my favorite features in sim racing, which is this. Boop. Pop-up headlights. It's just awesome. Alright, so let's see if we can, how well we can do here. Kind of it's definitely the quintessential like miniature little sports car. Even though it didn't really have any horsepower, like it's struggling up this hill here with almost no torque, but they were agile. Like when you drive it on the street normally, this is it seems way quicker than it actually is because you're driving against like regular cars. So definitely lacking horsepower, which is why they like to use these as entry-level race cars. They're really hard to overdrive unless you're me. I've got that kind of skill, so 108, 344. So actually a pretty close representation of the real thing. It was definitely underpowered for what it was, but very nimble and agile. And it seems quick when you're actually driving it because it's so small. And of course it gets bonus points because of these guys right here. Although if you did this, they would actually wink. They wouldn't. There's a delay between the two motors, so you could, if you rapidly did that, one motor would go and the other one wouldn't go. That's why you get the Miata wink. So overall, very good simulated version of this car. Alright, so we're going with the 1980s Suburban. In the US, these were under Chevy and GMC. They were the same thing, just rebadged. I had the Chevy version with the 350 or 5.7 with the throttle body injection. Mine was an automatic, but you can see it is an automatic, but I have it set up as H pattern because, you know, reasons. So we're going to see how she does here. This was my one of my favorite vehicles I've ever owned. It was definitely not a performance vehicle, but it was very. I owned it probably, boy, over 15 years ago. At the time, it was really cheap. So not so much anymore. These have gone up in value. So what I paid $1,500 US for is probably worth $7,000 today, $8,000. Through the beginnings of the large SUV craze here in the States. I have driven quite a few large SUVs. It's been kind of my go-to vehicle. 110,693. It's not quick, but it is good at hauling a lot of people around and a lot of stuff, which was the reason why I owned it. Relatively large family and dog and whatnot, so overall the Sim's got it pretty close. It's not fast, but the steering is wrong. Chevy pickups are not nearly this precise in their steering. They have a lot of slop in the steering, so overall actually pretty good Sim. Pretty good representation of the real thing, so. Alright, we're going to talk about this one before we actually go ahead and send it, because this one is, she's a handful. This is it's a stock car. The one I drove it looked very similar to this. It was body was a Buick Regal, but the engine was a Chevy 350 that was heavily modified. Full cage. It was a dirt track oval car, so this is about as close as we can get in Assetto Corsa. So we'll send her through the paces here. Oh, she is very fast. Oh, let's... Oh, boy. Wow. This is turning my brain into scrambled eggs. It is. Oh, she's a handful. Oh. 52,227. Oh boy. Wow. Yeah. So was this the fastest car I've ever driven? On acceleration. Pretty much, yeah. Top speed, probably not. It is not. It's a little bit off of what I actually drove, but overall, it captures the essence of what it felt like to drive, because it was a handful. It had a lot more horsepower, and the body was very stiff because of the roll cage. So. But the chassis was very stiff, so when you accelerated it, like, there was no body twist. It was all forward momentum, so it was very, very quick to accelerate. So overall, actually, it really captures the essence of what I drove. Definitely quicker than what I actually drove, but didn't seem like that much quicker. The Goodwood Festival of Speed is second on my list of race events I would love to attend. Chances are I probably won't get to, but if you want to see what number one is, just hold on for a few moments. Otherwise, if you do stream it like I will be, hope you enjoy it. Otherwise, we'll catch you next time.